want to say thank you for hitting play on this episode of Politics Not Included. I have just one thing to ask of you as you listen to this conversation. The goal of this show is to start bringing the humanity back to politics. And in order to do that, I need you to listen to this person's perspective with an open mind. This season, we're going to hear from candidates on both sides of the party aisle, as well as independent candidates. And I'm hoping that through these conversations, you'll get to know the people behind the campaigns and get to know the people that will appear on your ballot in August and again in November. And if you have something that you feel like you want to say that you wouldn't say if you were sitting in this room with us, I'm going to ask you to keep it out of the comments. We're here to genuinely get to understand somebody's journey and perspective. In order to accomplish the goal of this podcast, we need to go into this with an open mind and avoid attacking one another. Now, let's get this show started, and I'm excited to introduce you to the person that you'll get to know a little bit better today. On this episode of Politics Not Included, I'm joined today by Sandy Spidel Newman, who is one of the Democratic candidates for the U.S. Senate in this 2026 election cycle. Sandy, welcome to Politics Not Included.
Thanks so much, Morgan. Pleasure to be here.
I'm really looking forward to getting to listen to some of your backstory and what ultimately has led you to run for the U.S. Senate. To get us started in understanding who you are and what's led you to where you are today, can you first tell us a little bit about what your career has looked like up until this point?
Certainly. I've been blessed, grew up here in Overland Park, went to Shawnee Mission North, ended up going to the University of Chicago to study economics, got my MBA at Northwestern. I've had jobs since I was, and since I had my brother get a paper route because I was too young to get one, but I actually did it, right? Worked at a pizza place when I was little, 14, and I was too short, so I'm doing this because I kept burning my arms. So then they put me on the cash register because I was the only one that could balance it to the penny, right? So then you see my math and my just more of a business sense. So worked at a .com out of business school. Before that, during college, I actually job shared at a financial services company and took hundreds of phone calls a day at Kemper Financial, where we dealt with advisors, and initially clients and then advisors, dealing with their problems and solving things, and actually created process. Because initially when I went there, they just had these blank pieces of paper to have the transfer agent do things. And then I started creating templates because we could get more done quicker. Because people were typically calling to change their address or get their dividends changed or whatnot. So then you start having these templates in place. This is before there was really Windows, right? So it was all DOS-based computers back in the day. But then, like I say, I went to a .com. I was doing business development, so sales, B2B sales, which you'll see throughout my career. And from there got hired by American Express, which then became Ameriprise Financial. It was the sixth largest spinoff in history. I led a couple divisions there, teams of people doing different things, from recruiting, marketing, if you will, and then financial institutions, putting advisors in those institutions, but doing things end to end, and then trying to get more institutions as part of our portfolio. So it's just I've had such an opportunity, right, and just loved it. Great opportunity to do it. Had all kinds of end-to-end systems, right? So end-to-end channels that I could do different things. And so every day was different, right? And AI was coming into play, which is just one of my things in terms of seeing the possible, which something I always did. And I know I went all over there, and it may not make all sense, but it's one of the things, just working with incredible people, and that's the key. And that's what you see. There's a through thread, if you will, from my corporate life to now my political life, where it's just talking to incredible people.
What I'm hearing is a common thread of also processes and creating those processes with the base of economics and finance. What about
economics and finance, you mentioned so you liked the cash register at an early age. What about that as a field really drew you in?
Math has always just been one of my loves. I mean, I've been asked 3 times what I wanted to do when I grew up, and I was like 8, and I said a mathematician, as 8-year-olds do, right? I enjoy because there's just there's such a there's logic to it, but it also has an opportunity for creativity, and that's where I feel throughout my career, critical thinking. When you are handed not something to just push buttons on and administer, but you're actually handed a problem to solve, and you have to bring people together to solve that problem. It's the creative thought and critical thinking that really comes through. Math is one of the things that drives that, right? So when you're getting multi-million dollar budgets and you have to show revenue return on it, you have to constantly go, okay, what's my return on investment? What's my ROI on this? How will I tell the story so I get more investment into what I'm doing so my team can deliver their results, and we are delivering the results that get reported to Wall Street, right? So how can I do that and do it in the most cost-effective way so I get more investment? When I say I, my team, Avi. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a kind of an ability in throughout your career to look at things from different angles and bring people together to get through whatever the project is. And it also, I was looking as I was preparing for this, you also have you seem like a very ambitious individual with your childhood being filled with, from what I could find, please correct me if I'm wrong, you played volleyball, you did track on the debate team, very active through high school, but in college you were involved in all sorts of extracurricular activities. So it sounds like kind of from the jump you just go for things. What would you say is the common thread that drives your ambition kind of throughout your life?
I'm just always driven to, well, leading is inherent to me and innate. It's like I walk into anything and people know that I'm leading it. Even if I'm on the floor, like I remember being at Girls State, right? And we were in the minority party. So similar if I were in the Senate now, we'd be in the minority party. But they had me, I actually was leading from the floor because I knew Robert's Rules of Order and I could help the conversation move forward. And then they finally just pulled me up to the thing to run it, even though I was in the minority party. But it's those kinds of things. Even in business, I'd walk into a meeting and they knew that you were helping go through what needed to be. And it wasn't ambition. Ambition, it wasn't about me. It was like, what was the desired result? How can I make it better? How can I drive the result? And that's really what I've done throughout my career. And I think that's why, when I decided to retire, it's because I wanted to do more. I had hit a milestone birthday, so I'd hit 60, and I was like, what have I done? I've done really good work at a corporate setting, but what have I done? It's like, you're like, what have I really, how can I do more? And that's where I was like, okay, I need to pivot out of here and go try to make a difference. When you saw what was going on in DC, and you saw, I made the decision before really that Roger Marshall even did that. I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but I knew I had to make a difference. I had to be able to, I have really good skills. I've honed them over the years. I know I can make a difference. I know when I walk in and lead something, I bring a creative thought process. So sometimes we'll all be in the room going, how do we attack this problem? I'll come at it from over here. Everyone else a lot of times is over here. And so it's a unique thought process that comes in and says, okay, how can we do this together? And can we do this? Is this going to be the best way to do it? So it's optimizing. It's all that. And they were trying to promote me and give me, more stuff. And I'm like, oh, I would love that, but I have something more important to do. And that's, working for the people of Kansas.
So before you retired, You were the vice president of advisor recruiting and financial institution business development and marketing.
Yes, a lot, a big mouthful.
That was a mouthful. And you mentioned retiring, so that you retired
Well,
to
retiring
pursue
is
this
what you do in a corporate setting, so then, you have, so things get vested. So I'm never, I mean, me retiring I'm not good at sitting still. I'm good at doing things and driving results. And so when I was pivoting out and, the retirement notice was out there and I was talking to senior leaders who I had worked with and for, they were like, well, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I'm moving back home. I'm going to run for the United States Senate. It's only been 94 years since the Democrats won. And mind you, I'm talking to, a Republican from Connecticut at that point. And I said, but, I've never run. And they're like, oh, if anyone can do it, you can. It's that kind of knowing who I am and how I go about things. Because it's not about an initial behind your name. It's about looking at the issues and talking to people and seeing what needs to be done and how you can go about affecting change in a positive way. Because at the end of the day, everyone, no matter what party affiliation you're with, everyone wants a better world for their kids. Everyone wants things to be affordable. Everyone wants to live a good life and feel that they're giving back and that they're a viable part of their community. And that's really, at the end of the day, what we're trying to do, representing the people of Kansas, actually delivering results for them, and not about me. It's not about me as an individual. It's about what I can do to deliver results. And that's the way I've been my whole career. And I think what's really been helpful, I mean, and people know that I'm in it for the right reason, right? Yeah.
And so you made that transition then to pursue this, and that was kind of the driving change for leaving that behind.
Yeah, needing to do more. Yeah. And then that's part of who I am. I mean, it's just always been. I mean, even when I was little, my parents belonged to service organizations, like Sertoma and La Sertoma is like an organization here. And I would always help out. I would always be there, working. Or, I led the youth group at my church. My dad was an usher. Mom was, part of the women's group. But I always wanted to help lead and help make a difference. I don't even know how, and I was adopted, mind you, so these are my and I think it's important, the reason why I say that, I think people are very much a part of who they are genetically, and I think part of who I am, I mean, with the math and things, right, that's genetic, right? And then who I am as a human being is a lot of nature and nurture, right? So I learned from my dad. I mean, he'd drive back across town if he got a nickel too much in change because he was worried that someone's cash register wouldn't balance. Because he grew up with like all kinds of jobs and they were, my adopted parents were both born in 1922. So they were part of the greatest generation, right? And they were just these people that just hardworking, good, decent human beings. My dad worked for the gas utility, right? He never made more than 30 grand a year. Mom was a stay-at-home mom, but did a ton of stuff and grew up in Strawberry Hill. Her dad and his family immigrated from Croatia. So very, very strong work ethics that I benefited from, right? I don't know how to sit still. I know how to give back. And I know how to do that kind of stuff, and it's just part of who I am. And to be fair, my birth mother was also Croatian, so her name was Nina Grace Zuvanic, right? My adopted mother was Lorena May Tubowicz. Yeah, so this yeah, it's Croatian through and through.
Did you, if you don't mind me asking, you don't have to answer this, did you get to meet your biological parents at any point too?
I did. I had an opportunity to meet my biological mother, and she and we look alike. She had gotten a full ride scholarship to MIT. In 1962, her dad made her turn it down because it should go to a boy. And that, my heart just broke when I heard that. She didn't tell me. My birth uncle did. He lives here in Kansas City. So my birth mother now is passed, but we spent 6 hours across the table just, rapid fire. It was like it was so wonderful to be able to do that. I reached out to her because I wanted her to know that she made a great decision and that I lived a great life. But I also wanted to, you need to know things like genetics, right? Like I had both my knees replaced when I was 52 because I was bone on bone. She also, it was like that kind of thing where you go through this. And I learned that I have a half sister, who's my sister. And we spend holidays together. And and unfortunately, she passed away about 9 months after I met her. But I just feel so blessed that I had that conversation and that we were able to connect. And we, like I say, I look the same. And then I learned so much, and I still am very much in touch with my birth uncle and his wife, my aunt and uncle. Then on my father's side, I never met him. He was already passed. He had gone into special forces out of high school between Korean conflict and Vietnam, and came back, I want to say, with PTSD. I met his sister, who was a physical therapist, and got a relationship with her. So I got to learn a little bit more about him. He was from Emporia, and my birth mother was from Oxford, which is down by Wichita. So it's those little nuggets where you are able to make that connection that just make all the difference in the world. I was, again, so just incredibly blessed. And then my adoptive parents, who are my family, right, who are both gone now too. So all my parents were gone. I never got to meet any grandparents because everybody was gone by then. But I have a lot of aunts and uncles and cousins and a ton of people here in the Kansas City area. So I always feel so fortunate. But thank you for asking. It's part of who you are, And I think that's important.
It is. And my mom kind of has a similar journey to what you're sharing. So it's just interesting to hear how you grew up with your parents and then get to learn. And it's really cool to unpack and see the commonality that you have that you didn't really know that somebody else shared with you. And it kind of clicks for you. And the genetics and the math and the MIT, I imagine that's one of those moments for you.
I'm telling you. I saw a picture of my birth mother. I actually went down and met some of my birth family before I met my birth mother. And they showed me pictures. And I keep doing this, there was a picture of her arm. And I know this sounds weird, but it was my arm. It was the same, and literally pictures of her in high school. I could have showed them to my adoptive father. He would have thought it was me. I mean, it was that kind of it's just so strong. I mean, there was this, the little cleft in the chin, the little things that you see that you're just like, oh my goodness. I mean, it was funny because I actually asked my adoptive mother if I was adopted when I was very young because she just wasn't connecting with me. An adorable woman, but school was hard for her. And school was really easy for me. And so I was like, she wasn't following some of the conversation. And I was like, was I adopted or something? And she's like, yeah. I think she was relieved. I could not have been easy. I mean, my poor mother. But we had a great relationship, but it was just, I was like, oh, that makes sense now. So the way my mind thinks,
Yeah, biology is a strong pull. In the relation, right? Was that just a coincidence that you're adopted?
No, I think they tried to look for that. And I was adopted through Catholic Charities. I was able to see my adoptive record and how I found, my birth father's family too. I was able to, it was just as you go through stuff like that and try to figure out what's what. But no, I think they, because mom and dad were unable to have kids and they adopted, I have an older brother, and then they adopted me. We're from separate families. And I think they were trying to match people back in the day to similar genetic backgrounds.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. In terms of kind of more on your childhood and growing up and leading to where you are today, I saw on your campaign website that at Girl State Girl and Girls Nation that you laid a wreath on the tomb of the unnamed soldier, and that's when you first declared that you one day would be a U.S. Senator. What about that at such an early age was something that you knew that you would do eventually?
Well, I wanted to drive results, right? And I thought that the Senate was like one of these places where it was just one, you only have to run every 6 years. So I thought process again, right? So this is a good thing as opposed to every 2 years. It feels like you're just constantly running without knowing what running meant, to be fair. And I had the opportunity to lay the wreath because the president of the American Legion Auxiliary happened to be from Kansas that year. So it was also a benefit, one of the greatest honors of my life. And I've been back to DC multiple times since and always go to Arlington because you want to, just recognize the folks and seeing that ceremony where they do the changing of the guard and all that. It's just, I don't know, DC is just one of those special places to me, right? And it just shows you the history and the how important it is that we can all work together. It's we the people that run this government, right? And people are elected to do what needs to be done for the people. And I just felt that what's going on, I just always thought that we need to be able to be an active participant. And I always knew that I have good skill, I always believe in myself. I know that I can make a difference, and I was always in student government or leading whatever it was, and always was able to. I remember in high school, I became student government treasurer, right? As a sophomore, I ran and got elected. And it was because they were not managing the money well. And typically the treasurer was like some athlete, right? And mind you, I was an athlete. But I'm like, oh, we got to get this money thing situated. We need to be back in the black, on that as opposed to in the red. And so I did that so I could do it, right? And then I'm like, yeah, it's just something I did. It's what you need to do. And I thought, yeah, I want to do this, but I need experience. I need lived experiences so I can bring that to the Senate. And I think right now what you see a lot of times, I don't know if people have those experiences that they need to be able to be effective leaders. I, again, have been blessed. I've been all kinds of leaders. I mean, whether it's a team of one or a team of a lot, I've been able to do that and just make a difference. And I think that just, it matters. It matters in what kind of well you can go to say, okay, this isn't the same thing, but it's something that I can draw upon to really, get us, I don't have to start at step 1. I can start at step 7. Right? Because I've already done these, and I can bring that forward. So when I talked about systems before, I parallel process a lot, right? So you're here and you're doing this, but you can do this at the same time so you can get there faster. And one of the things I saw, and I love podcasts, so thank you for having me on again, but Nicole Wallace has a great one called The Best People. And she had Mikey Sherrill, and Mikey was talking about why we need women leaders, because women know how to get stuff done. She may have said it in a different word, and get the right stuff done and get a lot of it done because it's pace. We don't have time for, to take 3 months to make a decision or to, we see some of the folks that are in the race now where they're like, oh, I need to fast and pray to make the decision. You do your process, but I got news for you. The world we're in, we don't have time for that. You know, we need to make good decisions and take the inputs in and evaluate everything and make that decision and keep moving forward. And then optimize as you go across that decision. But we got to move forward. And we got to move forward and get all this done, because guess what they're doing right now? They're flooding the zone with so much crap. I mean, you look at that 1.776 billion dollar slush fund that they just authorized, and then not allowing the IRS to look at any of your own stuff or any of your family stuff. Or that's all BS. And we need people that go in and say, nope, we're not doing that. We are not signing off on that. And I thank God, like Jamie Raskin's in there, like throwing a lawsuit at it, which is perfect, right? And I reached, I'm obviously a corporate girl, right? So LinkedIn, this is me going into LinkedIn. And I reached out to him, and he actually came back to me. And we've talked to his team, and I said, I'm sure it's probably one of you that were writing to me. And they're like, no, Jamie does his own social. And I was like, oh, good. Because I'm like, he's like, let me know how I can help. And I'm like, good for you, Jamie, because I was thanking him for standing up for democracy and being a constitutional scholar, because that's what we need. Our Constitution, it's amazing. When you look at it, it's 250 years, right? And that thing has stood the test of time. If we just follow it, right? And I mean, right now you've got people in the Senate and in the House of Representatives that are not doing their job. They took an oath to the Constitution, not to one person. And right now they're standing up for one person. And we gotta take back the power, and we need to keep focusing on what we can do as a people to keep this country moving forward. And some of it is undoing the crap that's going on, but we need to look at what's going on, because we wouldn't be in this mess if things were perfect, right? And we're in this mess because people are disillusioned and they think the country's not working for them. And I agree. We, on both sides of the fence, we can do a better job. And that's what I intend to do.
Just a really quick interruption from the conversation that I hope you're enjoying. If you want to hear more of these conversations in the future, please consider hitting the follow or subscribe button in whatever platform you are listening or watching this episode. Just that one click of the button really helps us expand and grow the show. Thank you.
As you're running for the U.S. Senate now, when you made that declaration in high school, what would you, if you had the chance, what would you say to the high school version of yourself now running for the U.S. Senate? What would you go back and say to her?
I would probably say I should have done it sooner. I mean, maybe I could have made a difference sooner. I mean, when I say sooner, like maybe 10, 15 years ago, right? You still want that lived experience to bring to the table. That, you know, be true to who you are, you know, and that's where, you know, I just always have this drive in me to make things better. And I think we need to step up. I mean, there's so many people that are I get this a lot. People thank me for doing this, right? For running. And I'm like, I'm always amazed, right? It's like thanking me. I can't not do it. It's somebody has to do it, and somebody has to do it that can do it well. And do it for the right reasons. Because this isn't about a check on somebody's resume. This isn't about, you know, oh, check, I've done this because I said I was going to do it. This is about driving and making a difference. And I've always, I mean, it's that. Yeah, I like the fact that I'm driven like that. I mean, I appreciate it, and I honor it. Because I want to be someone who is listening to the people and delivering for the people. One of the things I hear too is like, when you get in, will your office answer questions? Not only will they answer it, because again, process, right? No, I'm a spreadsheet girl. right? We will have spreadsheets. We will track questions that come in and we will put them out there. So here, you're asking about X, here's what the answer is, and we will have people that get back to you. Go figure, and it will be tracked. I mean, I've talked to so many people that have made call after call after call and gotten nowhere. Nobody answering, nobody addressing their questions, nothing, and we will have offices throughout the state. We will hold town halls throughout the state where I take unfiltered questions, right? Because I work for the people, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, and work together, like with Sharice's office and with the other representatives, regardless of party. We represent Kansas, and we need to step up and do that. And that's me projecting that I win.
Sending it out into the universe.
Yeah, sending it out there.
Yeah. Before we move on from kind of your backstory and your personal life, what I'm hearing you say is in kind of capturing part of your story is that and I think it's incredible is that your mom was in a position that had to turn down a scholarship to MIT because she was told to go to a male, to now having you as her daughter running for the U.S. Senate, just going for the things that you say are inside of you, that you have to imagine that she is proud of that. And
I do. And I thank you for saying that. I wish my parents on both sides were alive. My dad, my adoptive dad, oh my God, he never met a stranger. That man could tell a story. I wish I had his gift. He would go, Mom and Dad would go to little churches. We grew up Catholic, and they would go to the little church function in little towns, and it would be a 1 degree separation from Ward Spidel. He was one of those guys that just knew everyone. He worked, like I say, at the gas utility. He helped install commercial kitchens, and he would just know people that knew people. So the church kitchen or the school or the firehouse or the hospital, he knew everybody, and he would remember. And he would just go through that. But my mom the same way. She was 7 months pregnant with me, single, in 1963 when Kennedy was shot. You talk about internal fortitude. That woman was strong. She had to go through that. And my uncle never knew. He was older than her, never knew about me. So she did that on her own in a time when, people weren't as supportive of people going through things, right? And for her to do that, but at the same time, I just want it to be very clear. I am very pro-choice. I grew up in a very Catholic family, and some of my cousins were like, they see me post things about Planned Parenthood and supporting them, right? And I've always been pro-choice and will die. That's a sword I will fall on, right? They were like, well, what if your birth mother had had an abortion? I'm like, well, I wouldn't be here, but I would fight to the death for her right to do that. As I will every Kansas one. We see, and this is one of the things that I really take Roger Marshall to task for, right, among many things. Him standing behind Trump and just bobbing his head on every single thing. But I'm like, your state that you're representing voted 60-40, pro-choice, and here you are pro-birth, not life, because if he was pro-life, he would feed kids. He would, fight for Medicaid, fight for SNAP, fight for health insurance, for crying out loud. But he's not. Nope, he's pro-birth with no exceptions for rape or incest. As an OBGYN, how is that not malpractice? I just look at it differently. I look at supporting people. But yeah, my birth mother and all my parents are just, blessed is too small of a word sometimes for what I feel for them.
And kind of moving on to where you are now. So you lived in Minneapolis and then moved back to Kansas. So why make the move back to Kansas? What about Kansas made you want to come back and settle down here?
See, I was born in Topeka, for crying out loud, right? And I'm Kansas through and through. I had to be other places for school and for work. In 2000, when I graduated from with my MBA, I went to a .com, right? And so in 2002, I got laid off like everybody, right? And I tried to move back then. Mom and dad were 80, right? And I'm like, all right, I engineered an interview with H&R Block. They had this is back when job boards were just coming about. And I saw it and I called them and said, I'm going to be in town. Can I come in and interview for this role? And they said, sure. So then I booked my flight and made the fact that I was in town. I was still in Chicago then. And one interview turned into like 7, 8 that day. And I ended up talking to the CMO. And I thought, oh my gosh, I've done it. I'm going to be able to move back home. And the next morning, they called me, and instead of a job offer, they said, I'm really sorry, we just had a hiring freeze be put on. Because it was that, remember back when they had those refund loan anticipation lawsuit, and then that settlement came through, and that's what caused that. So I was also talking to American Express and got hired by them and relocated to Minneapolis. So that's why I was up there. But did I I was down at home, 5-6 times a year at least with mom and dad, between working out of hospitals many times, or for, weddings and funerals and all the family things, the holidays, of course. But yeah, my heart has always been here. Home is where your heart is, right? I was never a Minnesotan. Good city, never a Chicagoan, good city. I was always part of Kansas, was always me. My teams, you see my logo. This is Chiefs red and gold, Royals blue, 100%. Because I won. Root for the red and the blue, right? And I am, from a political perspective, I grew up in Republican family, but I still love everyone. We have differences of opinion, as I said, on choice issues, some of them. Now, next gen, most of next gen is pro-choice, though, which I appreciate the evolution of thought, even though they reconcile. I'm a pro-choice Catholic. They are pro-choice Catholics. So you see that evolution as we go through here.
And then kind of shifting gears to being in the U.S. Senate as a leader, you've had a lot of extensive leadership opportunities up until this point. If somebody is listening to this and doesn't know who you are and asks the question of what kind of leader is Sandy Spidel Newman, how would you answer that question?
I would say my record shows that I'm an incredibly effective leader. In working at Ameriprise, we have employee satisfaction surveys, and so you get 360-degree feedback from the people above you, from the people at your level, and the people that work for you. And there's a leadership effectiveness rating, and I had one of the highest ones at the company because I care about people. I want to give them the opportunity. I want to equip them and provide the right guidance. I want to make sure that I fight to get the resources we need to deliver against our goals, that I look at what needs to be done and create a strategy and an execution plan, and that we work together. I expected a lot of my people, believe me, but you know who I expect more of? Myself. And so I led this is one of the things that once you've had an opportunity to have a full career like I have, I've had good leaders, and I've had leaders that, could do a little bit better. But you learn something from every situation, what to do and what not to do, right? And then you move forward. So what I would say is people want me on their team because I drive results, but I also have fun along the way, right? Because we have one life. And I've gotten this feedback from senior people saying, I know that if you were leading a meeting, it would be an efficient, effective meeting. We would get everything done, but we'd also laugh along the way. And that to me is one of the, I actually printed that out. One of the leaders sent that to me when I retired. And he is someone who led our, 7,500 advisors. And so when I saw that, I was like, I felt seen. I felt like I had, done something effective. and that I had evolved to a place where I was leading in the way that I wanted to lead. You know, because you always can do better. You look at everything you do and you're like, oh, I could have done that better, or I could have done that. Maybe I should have done this a little differently. But at the end of the day, it's like, I'm making a good difference, and I'm leading my team in a way that enables them to lead, right? I'm equipping them to do what needs to be done. And I feel like I'm delivering value. And that's really why I think I can do such a good job at being a senator, right? I can deliver value for the people of Kansas. And mind you, there's 10 of us in the race, right, on the Democratic side. And they're good people. I honestly feel that majority of the folks in the race are really good people. I just think that I have better skill sets. And when people look at who's in the race and who can do what needs to be done, people say they can fight. I have fought. I've not only fought, but I've fought at the top level, right? And I can go in there. I walk in on the Senate floor. They will not go, who are you? They will know that I belong, right? That I'm bringing something to the table, because we've got to all work together. And it's not time for rookie mistakes or people that haven't had the life experiences that someone of my tenure has had. We need to walk in there, and we need people that know how to lead. All kinds of things. Lead up, lead across, and lead down. And I'm effective at that. And that's really what we need.
In terms of being in the U.S. Senate, you will be with people across the political spectrum. You're representing a state that has people across the political spectrum. How do you go about listening to people's perspectives and taking that into account when it doesn't align with your own personal beliefs?
That's a great question. And I think more people should think that way. I love people. I get energized by people. And while we all think that we have a good perspective, I think when you listen to people and really listen, active listening, so you're not just listening to put your next thought out there, but I mean, and I've worked at that, because it's when you're in a corporate setting and you're in a meeting, oftentimes you have a strategy to get to the desired outcome, right? But I think in going around the state and going into little coffee shops or into a little restaurant or at a gas station even, talking to people and really listening to them and listening to people with diverse opinions. I was out in Salina and we were at a coffee shop, and I was talking to a couple regulars that were there, and these two women, they were among the two people that I've met, among the very few people that were Roger Marshall fans. So talk about, okay, I want to know why. Why do you think he's delivering for you? Here, let me understand, because I'm running to represent all of Kansas, not the Democrats, not just the Republicans or just the Democrats, but all of Kansas. And what I heard from them was basically that he was delivering for what they were thinking needed to be done. But it wasn't that much different from what everyone, like I say, those kitchen table issues, right? Where they want people, and I'm hoping you're not hearing, they're mowing our yard right now. So if you're hearing a mower out front, I can hear it. Hopefully you can't. But it's that kind of thing where you need to just listen and know that you are representing the people of Kansas and what they need. And so whether it's more affordable health care, what can we do around that? If it's education, obviously, I'm a proud product of public education, right? I want to make sure that the schools are there so everyone can have the opportunities I've had. But it's that kind of where you're drilling through what needs to be done for different people. And using data, because again, how I decision, right? Say, for instance, if we look at healthcare, we now have 15 years of data from the ACA, right? So let's look at the data and say, okay, is this the best healthcare policy, or what do we need to optimize in there to make it better? But I do know that it's more affordable than what we're dealing with right now. And I do know we need to restore those ACA premium tax credits so people have a 30% lower healthcare premium. So it's those kinds of things as you listen to people across the board. Because like you were pulling out threads of things I'm saying, I listen that way too and go, okay, what can we do that will hit for them? What are they really looking for? How can I deliver regardless of what initial is behind their name? You know, whether it's independent, Republican, Democrat. I mean, I would run as an independent if an independent could get elected, but you just can't, you know, because I'm much more center, you know, and the way I manage money is much more, you know, and, you know, it's the way it needs to be managed because I had to. And I've always had to, right? So anyway, I know I get going. I get a little wrapped up.
It's okay, it's great. And the last question that I like to finish with before I jump into the 3 questions I'll ask every guest this season. And I like finishing with this as kind of a broad question because you're doing something that very few people do. You're running for public office. Not many Americans have ever done that, so you're now seeing it from the other side. You're living it, you're running for office. What would you say if there's anything that through that experience of running for office you think that the public may misunderstand from the outside looking in?
I think a couple things there. It's hard, you know, and I've done tough things, so I get it, but it's challenging, and I love people and I get energy from people. It's also it's so much. I mean, I always equate, you know, if you don't think of Fortune 250 companies political, you're you know, but so is a school. You know, I was talking to some educators last night. One of my dear friends was retiring, and you know, every business is political, right? I mean, because you have different people coming at things differently and whatnot. But I'd also say we need to take a look at our political system, and we need to get the money out of it. We need to reverse Citizens United because corporations are not people. We have dark money influencing things. You see this, and then everyone. Oh my gosh! I mean, we know in Kansas, in the midterms here. In the primary, they've got a ballot initiative around voting for Supreme Court justices. For instance, one of the things you always look at, what are they really trying to do, right? They're really trying to influence women's healthcare decisions. They're trying to influence education, and they're trying to take away voting rights. So what we need to do is, one, vote no. Always, yeah, on this, vote no for sure. But it's that kind of thing where you look at it and go, okay, we need to, if we need a constitutional amendment, then we need a constitutional convention to come in and say, okay, we need to have everyone have the same amount of money. Because what we're having right now is people that can afford to run. You have a mega church pastor, because why? He can raise money from people across the country, you know, to influence an election. Do we want that? Do we want that as people representing us? Or do we want people that, regardless of where they are and what kind of money, we want the money coming from Kansas. We want people, you know, actually influencing their own election versus somebody putting their foot on the scale, you know, that are outside of Kansas. So I think there's a lot of that. I would say, and I think people understand that. They don't want to see 8,500 political ads, right? And we're spending all that money. You see some of the stuff like what went on in Georgia and what went on in Kentucky with the president weighing in on races because he's making it a personal vendetta against people. We don't need that. No, we don't need to spend millions and millions and billions when you look at the whole structure together. We need that money going to fix things, not, and they can't be lying, and that's the problem. You get all these like corporate entities that can, and PACs, and they can lie. You can't lie in ads like in financial services, my world, you can't do that. Why are we allowing politicians to lie? And people on behalf of politicians to lie, to influence I mean, it makes no sense to me. That stuff needs to be fixed. And I think I can help fix it. And that's what I would tell people.
We'll now move into the last three questions that I will ask every guest this season.
Okay.
And the first is, if this race were to end tomorrow, what would you be most proud of doing just by stepping in?
I think, and part of why I did this is that I felt we could run under the radar. And again, because, which is good. So we're showing up throughout the state. We're listening to people. We're bringing higher profile to those things. And God willing, we're going to come out on top so we can go make a difference. But, traveling throughout the state, going to the small towns, going into the little coffee shop, and not just talking to the people there, but talking to the people working there, right? And talking to everyone. It doesn't matter. You all matter. And maybe, just maybe, getting this through people's heads. Show up, vote, because I wear a vote necklace I've been wearing this for, 40 years. Had a vote necklace on, making sure people are registered, making sure people are participating. It is we the people that matter here, and we the people that can take back our country and make it, neighbors. When somebody knocks at the door and they need something, or one of the neighbor kids needs a ride to work or whatever, I don't go, who'd your parents vote for? Who'd you vote for? I said, sure, let me help you out. We're all in this together. We have one life, and we should all be working together. So that's, I'm glad that I'm stepping up because I listened to that voice from back in high school, right? And said, why not me? Why not me? Because I know I can make a difference. And that's what, even regardless of what happens, I still think we have a really good shot at making this difference. You look at the numbers, because I'm not in it. It's not performative for me. I'm not doing it to run. I'm doing it for the people of Kansas.
When people hear your name 5 years from now, what do you hope they associate it with?
That I made a difference. That I made a real difference. Because we need help right now, right? We can see that. And that I'm stepping up and trying to do this because, it is my inherent civic responsibility that I know that I can make a difference. And God willing, we can all make a difference together. And I can't just sit on the sidelines. I'm never that person. I walk in going, how can I help? What can we do together? And of course, and this is when I brought up the whole Supreme Court thing. Again, it's not about individuals in this midterm, right? It's not about individuals in the primary, really. It's about us all working together to make it a better Kansas, to make it a better country. Because you can't gerrymander the Senate, right? Well, nor should we be able to gerrymander anything for that matter. That's another constitutional amendment, because apparently the Supreme Court doesn't understand the Constitution anymore. Anyway, I digress. But I think if I really want people to know that I cared and that I took every single action I could to make a real difference for not just me, not just my family, not just, but the people of Kansas, but everyone. And I know that I can help. And so, yeah, that's really what I want them to come away with. And I hope that I've had the opportunity to make that difference.
And the last question, which in my opinion I think is the most important, is why is voting important to you? And what would you say to somebody that is not planning to vote in August?
We all have to step up. It's not just, if you don't put your voice in the mix, You're wasting an opportunity. Think of yourself. We are so incredibly blessed to have been born in this country. I don't even know. Like, if I'd been born in the Middle East, one, I would have been dead by now because of this, right? Yeah, women don't get to speak up and do anything, but we are so incredibly blessed. We need, it's a responsibility. This isn't a country for just a few. This is a country for everybody, and we are so incredibly fortunate that we have that opportunity. And everyone, we see what happens when only a few people vote. We're not getting the representation we deserve, right? We're not getting the country we deserve or the state we deserve. We saw what happened with Brownback, for crying out loud, right? I mean, that was very localized politics, but it's also all the elections. Not only do you vote, I mean, some people, all right, so here you get people into different voting categories, right? Some people only vote in presidential elections. I'm like, oh, honey, you got to vote in every election. I got news for you. The school boards, those people have more of an impact on your life. I mean, on our children, on me, on everyone, because we all had to go through that. But it's also economic. I mean, if you need an economic rationale, your property taxes, right? Your property taxes pay for the schools. And your schools matter because then your property value, you're in the good. We've got great schools here in Kansas, right? We are so blessed. And Governor Kelly's done a great job of reversing that Brownback BS, to really, again, invest in our kids and invest in everyone. But it's every election. You need to be informed, and now there's no reason not to be. You can take your phone in. You can look up those judges you're voting for re-election on to see if there's any that if you haven't done your homework ahead of time, right? You can be informed, and you have a voice in how your state is being run, how your community is being run. And everyone, I always talk to the young people too and say, make sure you're registered to vote. I remember how proud I was when I registered to vote, and I registered as a Democrat. Mind you, this was 1982, right? They called my parents to tell them that I registered as a Democrat. Back in the day. My mom was not really happy with me. Because, that's what it is. But I've been a lifelong Democrat because I am aligned with those democratic values. But I'm so in that middle. I'm very fortunate. But yeah, everyone needs to vote. You're registered. Everyone needs to check their registration. And everyone needs to validate before the midterm deadline. So not only are you voting in the midterm, so you have the representation you deserve, but also in the general, and I mean in the primary and in the general. So 100%. And I don't know how not to. I vote in every single election. I'm one of those people that goes and gets everyone. I'm that annoying person. That's like, have you registered? Have you checked? Have you double checked? Have you checked your parents? When my mom was in a nursing home, I was like helping everyone. I was like, have you all registered? Do you need absentee ballots? Can I help you? Can I help? How can I help? Because again, I'm sorry, but these people need, and to make sure everyone's voice is heard.
Yeah, voting matters. So you should check your registration and go vote in August. Well, thank
100%.
you so much. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was really great to learn more about you and hear your backstory, and I enjoyed our conversation.
Morgan, you're a delight, and thank you for what you do. As a professor, you're doing great work too, but this kind of where you're getting the word out and listening to what people are bringing to the table and how they're running, I really appreciate you. So thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I really hope that you enjoyed and learned something from this conversation. Politics Not Included is hosted by the Transparent Campaign Initiative. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and if you did enjoy this show and want to see this organization continue to grow, We would really appreciate if you would consider making a donation or follow us on our social media pages. That support helps us grow as well. The links are in the show notes. Thank you.